The Queen of Palaria. There once was a white bearskin rug that sisters laid on and laughed on. They had echoes ring through the room and dancing candlelight. Each time a part of the story was told from the balcony in a certain drawing room, a part of the future was cast out, like a net catching your own soul back because you knew it was going to be hunted in the future. We do have the ability to go into the future and save ourselves from the past and live sidereal lives in between. And in this quantum folding, these maneuvers was like a lot in life you kept landing yourself into with different environments, grasping onto a fishing pole in a sense and hoping and waiting for time to reveal a better story. But you knew in your gut what was already laid out before you. This is the dilemma of the galactic seer. So the story was spoken in a childish manner at first and then elegantly improved in a mature and perfected way later on. And elements were added, like meeting a king at the end of it in a faraway land and other tales. There was a nice queen of old ice that was also in the story who lived another life in an ancient land and ended up getting lost in the waves of time. This queen did. And she could be described now, according to modern quantum mechanics, as an aged time crystal who traveled up and down the chutes and ladders of the devil's staircase until she stopped living those sidereal lives and found her footing finally. She later was able to grasp the multifaceted reality of our world, overlapping timelines, hypertech maneuvers, jumps, and Earth alliances and secret space program missions, and advancements and completions. Alcyon 4, Procyon 1, Losunes Lepus 5, three planets whose stars ended up eating them. Light lives, leap years, stream slips, frequency qubits, random grid points interlacing, showing the 10 years of matrices, faces, and fading in and out. Chroeulic reticuli, scintillating waves, symbiotic spacesuits, injected forms. We never lived within the parameters of any norms from our birth. Another name label called Mother Echo was rocked in a rocking chair with bear jerky and was born into the night as each day blurred into the next until the sky turned red and faded out in this land. She had instances of uncontrollability spiraling out. Echo, echo. Imprinted musical grid work was in this particular area. She labeled it as a psychic gulag compound city that was just located outside of a city network. It had its own type of grid work and its own type of infrastructure, the very basic, so the bare bones and computers into each home apartment framework. It was like being around thousands of gifted people with abilities and psi abilities, but with that comes not such good intentions towards everyone because not everybody was going to be on the same page. So it ended up backfiring and having its disastrous moments. What happened in this psychic gulag compound was sometimes being psychically, spiritually attacked at night, ganged up on at night, and feeling like you had to kill a psi vampire every night. There was little food there, and supplies were on a scheduled basis. This place had frequencies inlaid into the radio station towers that surrounded it, and the operatives there would do readouts on their consoles for intel purposes and to track UFOs and other specific priority tasks. The alpha female and omega male ended up being taken out, and the entire camp was restructured. So, going into some older ops in the land of Russia, we'll go there. In the time of the oligarchs and the very dark ages, as I would call it, in Russia, before there was a federation formed, some of the oligarchs had brutal gangs that would do whatever they wanted, And then they also had people go into sex slave rooms. And in this room, they were also tested to see who would fight and who would submit. So it was basically anything goes in this room. So you could either end up fighting the guy that was in the room, or you could end up submitting. So, like I said, that was a test. And sometimes the room would be left in a completely bloody mess because some of these people that went in there were allowed to come back with modifications that could boost their strength and tap into that strength that they had as a super soldier. So that's why a female could go into this room, and if she would be put into a different project or used for something else after this room, it would determine if she would submit fully or if she would fight and win the very strong man or men that was in this room. So sometimes these rooms ended up being left in a complete bloody mess, because you could fight to the death even. There's no rules. And we had an advantage coming in covert, like I said, already as trained assets. So that was Russia's dark time. Many things happened in that time. Oligarch mob rule, imprisoning many people. Many captives were set free in different systems throughout all of the regions that eventually became oblasts and different government structures. And this became compartmentalized, occult driven darkness that had blighted the land. And it was broken, and a leader was freed to enact crucial changes that were necessary that the country desperately did need. And these rooms also became a rescue mission later on, too. They were went into at different points in time, not just once. So the leader of Russia, Putin, had an imposter that was also dealt with, and he was released from captivity. The clone of his was taller and had a coldness in his eyes, and this was not the focused, attentive, blue souled eyes that Putin has. And that's why people remember this time as Putin being cruel because original Putin isn't, but his imposter was. So he was let out of imprisonment. Beach areas became safer, and clubs, cities gradually improved, and economic regulation made wide sweeping measures throughout the land. And only the worst of the worst are still subjected to the Siberian prisons, but most people live happily in the land of Russia now. And in my opinion, the Federation's much better than the former states it has experienced. Stalingrad was a noble battle that's recognized in the space program archives, even, and Russia has an unbreakable spirit when unified. So I hope the Federation keeps improving and people's quality of life as well. I don't believe in communism at all, and I've seen its devastations and suffocations, and any country grasping to this ideology isn't really putting life at its value in the hierarchy because the well being of individuals erodes over time in those systems, and people are left hurting, resentful, and fall through the cracks and only remain loyal to a cause through fear, intimidation, and brainwashing, which has been the case throughout. And the wings and eyes of one eagle in Russia look to the country and the other to self. Both are shaped to cultivate glory to the land and leader, though, and glory should be given to the Lord first, in my opinion, then country, then to family, then to the pattern of heavenly things to the self. Because in our self worth, we should only have the hope of becoming and being like God in the right fashion and lifestyles that we lead and in His divine right timing. So I hope Russia opens up more also to dual citizenship in the future as well. The American eagle now has wings reflecting an echo of bloody Rome, and it has a different connotation to it and what it looks at. And it looks straight and not both directions like the Russian eagle does. And I've understood both these eagle wings and what's acceptable and what's represented with individual freedoms and liberties across the board. So the American eagle is a hope for a new age in its struggle to find stability in all directions and just that focus looking straight ahead. And it's been trying to do that since its inception and God given declarations. I mean, where else can you have unlimited passports, triple citizenship, and a personal artillery? Only here. And it's hidden ancient past that involves the both of the Americas conjoined is still yet to be unraveled and discovered. And all of the other cultures that were in North America. It has a very savage and cruel history here, and America still continues to find its divine manifest destiny and directives to not repeat Atlantis and go under in its hubris and provoking the anger of the Lord again. So it needs to find balance. That balance can be obtained with mature and sensible leadership, and I believe the next upcoming years will prove that to be true. And the horrible powers that have tried to continually destroy America already have decreased significantly, even in the last 6 months. Although there will always be groups around the world surmising and attempting and plotting their plans again and against us, we have to stay armed for this very reason and watchful while trying to live our best lives and developing dignity where goodness can be found and cultivating that in others. Because we truly do overcome evil with good, and our spirit is also unbreakable. So birds of different feathers can fly together. And Putin said it well when he said that the three basic principles of life and values of life should always be life itself, respect and value for life, love, and liberty. So we just have different steps in trying to achieve this as individual states, let alone a whole nation. And it's hard to pull everybody through to that. Russia never had people running around ripping each other's hearts out like America did, but they did experience some of the cruelty that stained their land too, from Mongols and other and Viking practices and other times. Aztecs were the bloodiest regime written in the secret space program archives, led by Hasatan himself, building on graveyards of bones everywhere they went as a galactic crusade of their own. And they went to their own demise because they were on an insane mission. So once America realizes what's already been overcome on their land and under their feet, they should have a new level of hope, freedom, and assurance. And our secret history is something that does still need to be dealt with because of the overlapping timeline, for one, and the anomalies and the aberrations that happened with that are still straightening out, and the clearing of the MK Ultra blanket over America, and the heightening of our consciousness here. Burying something alive is like, and it will always come back to haunt you, is the same concept of burying lies and living a lie. It will come back to haunt you. So it does have to be dealt with. And then you can see it for what it is. And then just if you bury something dead that's truly dead and stays dead, it's not going to come back and haunt you because then you have closure. Now, the blood eagling was an initiation and motivation experience one day in Russia as well. That was done in a Holocaust Roman looking temple building for my team's creature ops. And I was allowed to travel with a team, to work with a team, but was never actually allowed a partner. And some of the darkest ops were done in Russia. So all the resort towns and renewal projects that happened helped lighten all of that and offset and diffuse the chaotic energy that was in Russia and then bring some solace to the masses there and open up new opportunities and different environments and atmospheres for them, basically. So America needs the world's prayers, not its hate. And yes, our news does look crazy to some old school people, and a lot of crazy things do happen here on a daily basis. But we've learned to ride the intensity into a path of submission where we can all find peace in this world's melting pot and not let it get to us. And as iron sharpens iron, we need to be a people that keeps the eternal flame of the strong remnant here burning bright, like the eternal flame monument in Stalingrad, as that sparks aspiration and a trajectory of self preservation as well. And a young country born out of ashes also needs to fight for its sovereignty, which is what we're basically still doing here. And China also got rid of many of these old money cruel systems too, not just Russia, but not all of them, but to a manageable degree, at least. And Russian leaders were using U.S. assets and molding them into a buried alive agent testimony that was completely strangulated at times. And Many operations have been done with and between different nations like these. And they use tactics such as slitting the throat of a clone, or that would be like a person that helped you, that you trusted, and locking in the fear of speaking. Um, there are many different techniques to use. And after so many times, you'd catch on and then get further entangled in their system with soul ties and other advanced electromagnetic field graphing and charting relay module systems that could call you up and out. So, apart from these ops, at the end of them, sometimes therapies would be pretty creative. You could be put in a glass case. You could make music in with your mind. You could make music in decompression chambers that would read your thoughts out and help you and others be able to understand so that you could explain or express time compressed missions if you weren't even able to speak or traumatized coming back from a time compression zone or whatever the case was. So, like I said, we had matrices of 10 years. Yesterday and tomorrow islands, due to time differentials and time differences, the big Diomede is sometimes referred as tomorrow island, and the little Diomede is sometimes referred to as the yesterday island. There is calibrations of calendars and clocks that are still ongoing in this world that the secret projects have been using and allocating and know about. Quantum superhighways are a highway to all communication, and that involves a superconducting waveguide designed to carry photons carrying quantum light information. Communications with processors are based on 4 qubits each. This is activated by microwave pulses that emit a photon, and then changing the shape of a photon completes transfer of information and absorption by other photons through waveguide reception. And these exchanges are monitored by weather stations. And the USA is leading in as a strategic sector of this domain and resolving our electrical flux problems in space, on land, and at seas. And some of our classified weapons are called waveforms for a reason. Now, the US and Canada are at the forefront of electronic warfare innovation, investing heavily in new technologies to maintain a strategic advantage in an era where electronic threats are as big as kinetic warfare. The electronic warfare market in North America is influenced by defense policies and regulations set by the US Department of Defense and Canadian government. U.S. military has established the electromagnetic spectrum superiority strategy to ensure dominance in electronic warfare operations. Regulations governing the use of electronic warfare technologies focus on ensuring compliance with international laws while maintaining national security. And the role of the North American Aerospace Defense Command, NORAD, hypersonic and hypertech classified weapons remain at the juxtaposition of American interests and advancements in military application fields and geospatial and global political spectrum advisories and committees. The 14 Eyes is an intelligence sharing alliance known as Seniors Europe SSEUR, comprising the original Five Eyes US, UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, plus 9 additional European countries Denmark, France, Netherlands, Norway, Germany, Belgium, Italy, Spain, and Sweden. And outside of those countries, it can be referred to as counterintelligence. The Five Eyes FVEY is an Anglosphere intelligence alliance comprising Australia, Canada, New Zealand, UK, and US. The embedding of a new intelligence posture and a reset with Russia is one that, once normalized within doctrine, fundamentally reorients the US security strategies. And that's already being navigated in many fields. So now I can turn to discrete quasi-time crystals and what those are about. A time quasi-crystal defies traditional understanding of time and motion, and long-lasting time crystals can last 40 minutes, opening new avenues for quantum computing and precision timekeeping, high precision sensing, and advanced signal processing. These are made of indium gallium arsenide, which was continually illuminated in an experiment with a laser, and that interaction caused a nuclear spin polarization that spontaneously generated oscillations, embodying the essence of a time crystal through periodic behavior under constant excitation. This observed behavior of the time crystal, its frequency response, ranged from perfect synchronization to chaotic dynamics. The system's frequency response was strictly bound to the drive frequency, but synchronization occurred at specific fractions of the system's natural frequency. And those fractions, in order of appearance, were increasing drive frequency and corresponding to the fairy tree sequence, FAREY. The fairy tree sequence, each frequency component splits into at least two branches that are symmetrical to the synchronization frequency. These frequency branches connect the synchronization plateaus and together form a kind of staircase known in literature as the Devil's Staircase, indicating a path either upwards or downwards, and the step height and width decrease with each step. This branching leads to a multiple staircases of varying steepness, which eventually converge, resulting in chaotic motion. And changing the shape of a photon changes the time window itself. The 1st Multi-Domain Task Force, 5th Battalion, 3rd Field Artillery Regiment, the 17th Field Artillery Brigade Unit at JBLM, transitions now into the LRHW program from the Army's Rapid Capabilities and Critical Technologies Office, RCCTO, into a Program Executive Office Missiles and Space one. OP Fires is run by DARPA and Falcon projects, Hypersonic Air Breathing Weapon Concepts, HAWC, HAWC, Air Launched Defensive Anti-Surface, HALO, Defense Systems, and Wave Rider are currently still classified projects in defense, with testings up to Mach 20. Stutenex, Malware, Fogbank, and others are also in these classified projects. Netrusion technology. This is a concept. Netrusion technology is used by the U.S. Air Force. It sends corrupted oncoming missiles to shut them down, as well as hostile aircraft by giving them a shutdown order, where the systems turn off one by one. Basilisks images, called basilisks, are destructive to the human brain, which are used as weapons of terror by posting copies of them in certain areas too. And there's also many handheld secret weapons that are still in use, like the Noisy Cricket, and that's a tiny palm-sized firearm that expels enormous amounts of firepower, and it's super small and it launches a large orb of energy out. And the Cricket can level a truck or blast through 5 feet of concrete, but few agents ever get the hang of holding the gun properly to minimize its kickback, and that results in them hurling across the room. Now, DARPA's Atmosphere as a Sensor, AtmoSense, Atmospheric Signals program, understands the dynamics of energy propagation between Earth's surface and the ionosphere, and whether they could be leveraged as a sensor system. High-resolution surface-to-space simulation of acoustic waves. So they were able to demonstrate how energy began with a small disturbance on the ground and then propagated upwards through the atmosphere beyond the new understanding of upper atmosphere dynamics that AtmoSense has provided, and the program's potential for tracking large-scale Earth-based events, tracking electron drop content, etc. These such capabilities may be useful in modeling hypersonic flight, as well as certain fluid dynamic simulations and other demanding scientific challenges where difficult computational models are required, and a foundational capability for a new era of global sensing and strategic awareness. So, may the future hold favor and fortune for those countries who wish to cherish sovereignty and cooperative unions amongst others with similar mindsets, not smaller, similar mindsets, without hurting each other or prized assets and operatives in between. Working relationships with counterintelligence has yielded good profits and returns in the past and will continue to do so without unnecessary forced regulations and monitoring. Trust in the intelligence field has always been a slippery slope. But it has also taught us how to improve our own characters, reliance on self-sufficiency, competency, and on other crucial partners and partnerships for the best possible outcomes across the board. And may this vision of continued continuity of care and communication be strategized in a way that reframes outdated modes of thinking and processing into a more streamlined system of relay reconnaissance, release, and hyper technological understandings of components that make up our advancements, trajectories, and synchronicities. And may our world become more balanced each day.